Jasmine stood at the head of the boardroom table, her heart pounding but steady. She had spent months preparing for this moment, the campaign pitch that could finally prove she belonged in the upper echelons of Sterling Media Group. Her voice rang clear as she began, outlining a bold strategy to revitalize their client's brand. But just as she flipped through her slides, Claire Hargrove leaned forward with a smirk. "Hold up," Claire interrupted, her tone dripping with mockery. "Is that your hair? Isn't it distracting? How do you expect clients to take you seriously?" Before Jasmine could respond, Claire reached over and tugged at her afro bun as though it were some kind of prop. The room erupted into laughter, awkward chuckles from colleagues trying not to seem rude, louder guffaws from Gregory Lang, the smug CEO who seemed to relish every second of Jasmine's humiliation. Jasmine froze, her cheeks burning, but she forced herself to continue. "If we focus on these key metrics," she said, her voice trembling slightly but still strong enough to carry the room. She finished the presentation despite the weight pressing down on her chest. Gregory stood up, clapping half-heartedly. "Good effort, Jasmine," he said, his words patronizing. He turned to Claire. "But I think Claire should lead this one. Clients prefer someone more polished." Polished? Or just pale? Jasmine thought bitterly as she gathered her notes. Outside the office building later that evening, Jasmine scrolled through her phone, hoping to distract herself from the day's events. A notification popped up, a video posted by Claire. Jasmine clicked play, dread pooling in her stomach. It was footage of the meeting, edited to highlight Claire's cruel joke about her hair. The caption read, "Guess who thinks they're too good for corporate standards?" Comments flooded beneath the video. Some were mocking her appearance. Others accused her of being aggressive and unprofessional. One comment stood out. "She doesn't look like someone I'd trust with my business." Another, "This is why diversity hires fail." By morning, the video had gone viral. Emails poured into Jasmine's inbox, rejection after rejection from potential freelance gigs. "We don't think your image aligns with our brand values," one client wrote bluntly. Each message felt like another nail in her coffin. Alone, in her apartment that night, Jasmine stared at her reflection in the mirror. Tears streaked her face, but anger burned hotter than sadness. Why did people always find ways to tear her down? Was it ever going to stop? Her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't an email or social media notification. It was a text from an unknown number. "They made a mistake. Let me help." Jasmine frowned, staring at the screen. Who was this person? What did they know? And why would anyone offer help now, when everyone else seemed eager to kick her while she was down? She typed back hesitantly. "Who are you?" The reply came quickly. "Someone who knows what Sterling Media Group is really hiding. Trust me, you'll want to hear this." Jasmine hesitated, gripping the edge of her kitchen counter. Could she trust them? Or was this just another trap? She wanted to believe. There was someone out there willing to fight alongside her, but experience told her allies were rare in situations like this. Still, as she sat there surrounded by rejection emails and hateful comments online, something inside her stirred. If no one else would stand with her, maybe she didn't need them. Maybe this stranger offering cryptic promises was all she needed to start turning the tide. Jasmine sat across from the HR representative, her hands clenched into fists. "Claire mocked my hair in front of the entire boardroom," she said, her voice tight with frustration. She literally pulled it like it was a joke. The HR rep sighed, flipping through notes that clearly weren't meant for Jasmine to see. "I understand you're upset," he said dismissively, "but maybe you misinterpreted her intentions. Claire can be playful sometimes." "Playful?" Jasmine snapped, leaning forward. "You think humiliating someone in front of their peers is playful?" Before the HR rep could respond, Gregory walked in, his presence filling the room. He gave Jasmine a patronizing smile. "Look, Jasmine," he began, sitting down as if they were equals despite the power imbalance glaringly obvious. "If you just apologize to Claire for being so sensitive, we could move past this." Jasmine stared at him, incredulous. Apologize? For what? Having natural hair? Gregory shrugged, already standing up to leave. Clients prefer someone more polished. You know how these things go. Later that week, Jasmine sent out pitch after pitch to potential freelance clients. Each rejection email hit harder than the last. One client wrote back bluntly, "Your image doesn't align with our brand values." Another simply replied, "We'll pass." By Friday, Jasmine's inbox was empty except for rejections. She slumped onto her couch, staring blankly at her laptop screen. Every door had slammed shut overnight. Her phone buzzed, a DM notification. It was from an account named On Truth Seeker 23. "I've been following your story," the message read. "Sterling Media Group has skeletons in its closet. Let me help." Jasmine hesitated before responding. "Who are you?" The reply came quickly. "Eli Drake, ex-journalist. I've uncovered evidence of systemic racism at Sterling Media Group, all buried under secret settlements." Intrigued and desperate, Jasmine agreed to meet him at a quiet cafe downtown. Eli arrived carrying a folder stuffed with documents. "Lawsuits," he explained, sliding papers toward her. "All settled quietly out of court. They've been, doing this for decades." Jasmine scanned the documents, her anger reigniting. "They've gotten away with this for years," she murmured. "And now it's time to expose them," Eli said firmly. Together, that evening Jasmine called Dante, her younger brother. His voice brightened when he heard hers. "Hey sis, how's it going?" "Not great," Jasmine admitted, rubbing her temples. "Everything's falling apart because that video. Clients won't hire me, and Sterling is gaslighting me left and right." Dante hesitated on the other end. "Do you need money? I can try to send something." "No, don't worry about it," Jasmine interrupted. "Just thanks for listening." But later that week, Jasmine discovered Dante had betrayed her trust. While digging through old files, she found emails between him and Claire. In exchange for cash and a gig offer from Sterling Media Group, Dante had leaked details of her legal strategy. Jasmine confronted him over the phone, her voice shaking with rage. "How could you do this to me, Dante? To your own sister?" "I didn't have a choice," Dante shouted back. "You don't understand. I needed the money." "You chose them over me," Jasmine whispered, hanging up before he could respond. Alone in her apartment, she felt the walls closing in. Who could she trust if not her own family? Driving home late one night, Jasmine noticed flashing lights behind her. Her heart sank as she pulled over, gripping the steering wheel tightly. Officer Ramirez approached her window, his demeanor aggressive. "License and registration," he barked. Jasmine complied, keeping her hands visible. "Is there a problem, officer?" Ramirez glanced at her license, then smirked. "You fit the description of someone reported earlier tonight." "What description?" Jasmine asked, panic rising. Before Ramirez could escalate further, another officer intervened, Detective Elena Torres. She recognized Jasmine immediately. "Let her go," Torres said firmly to Ramirez. Then, turning to Jasmine, she added softly, "Be careful out here." After letting her off with a warning, Torres handed Jasmine a business card. "If you're looking for answers about Sterling Media Group, check the police archives. There's dirt there. You just need to dig." Armed with Detective Torres's tip, Jasmine dove into research alongside Eli. What they uncovered shocked even her. Through old police records, they learned Claire wasn't who she claimed to be. She was an undocumented immigrant using a stolen identity. "This changes everything," Jasmine muttered, staring at the evidence. With this information, she finally held leverage over Claire. But at what cost? Was exposing Claire's secret worth ruining her life permanently? Eli watched her wrestle with the decision. "It's up to you," he said gently. "But remember why we started this fight." Jasmine nodded slowly, tears welling in her eyes. She wanted justice, but part of her wondered if vengeance would only make her feel emptier. Could she forgive herself for crossing that line? Jasmine stared at the email from Sterling Media Group's PR team, her hands trembling with rage. The subject line read, "Jasmine Carter, fabricates claims to deflect attention. Inside, they accused her of lying about workplace discrimination to cover up her own incompetence. Her stomach churned as she realized how calculated this move was. They were gaslighting her in public. "They're twisting everything," Jasmine muttered under her breath, showing the email to Eli. "How am I supposed to fight back when they control the narrative?" Eli frowned, scrolling through the statement. "This is bad, but it's not over yet." But things only got worse. Witnesses who had initially agreed to testify against Claire suddenly backed out. One by one, they sent apologetic messages claiming they'd been pressured or threatened into silence. Jasmine clenched her fists so hard her nails dug into her palms. Without their support, her case felt like crumbling sand. Then came the final blow. Gregory called her into his office, his tone icy and dismissive. "We've reviewed your performance, Jasmine," he said, sliding a termination letter across the desk. "Unfortunately, we don't think you're meeting expectations." "This is retaliation," Jasmine shot back, standing up. "You can't do this." Gregory didn't even flinch. "Take it up with HR if you want, but trust me, it'll be easier for everyone if you just leave quietly." That night, Jasmine returned home to find an eviction notice taped to her door. Rent was due, and without income or savings left, she couldn't pay it. She slid down the wall, burying her face in her hands. For the first time, she wondered if fighting back had been worth it. Had she lost everything for nothing? The next morning, Jasmine woke to a notification on her phone. A headline blaring across social media. Sterling Media Group exposed. Decades of systemic racism uncovered. Eli had published his exposé, laying bare the company's dark history. Emails revealed Gregory explicitly instructing managers to avoid hiring black candidates for leadership roles. Screenshots showed secret settlements paid to past victims of discrimination. As the story went viral, outrage erupted online. Former employees came forward with their own stories corroborating Jasmine's claims. Journalists picked up the thread, amplifying the scandal until it dominated headlines nationwide. Meanwhile, Dante reached out to Jasmine, guilt heavy in his voice. "I hacked into Claire's laptop," he confessed. "Found proof of her stolen identity. I'm sorry for betraying you before. I wanted to make it right." Jasmine took a deep breath, staring at the files Dante sent. With undeniable evidence of Claire's fraud, authorities moved swiftly. Within days, Claire was arrested for identity theft and deported. Her carefully constructed facade shattered. Public pressure mounted against Sterling Media Group. Protesters gathered outside their headquarters, holding signs that read, "Justice for Jasmine," and "End Workplace Racism." Gregory resigned amid the chaos, leaving the company in disarray. But as the dust settled, Jasmine uncovered something even more shocking. Buried in the documents Eli had obtained was a memo outlining Gregory's true plan. He'd orchestrated the entire scandal as a distraction. While everyone focused on Claire and Jasmine's feud, he'd been quietly negotiating the sale of Sterling Media Group to a competitor. Jasmine sat alone in her apartment, staring at the memo. Claire wasn't the mastermind. She was just another pawn sacrificed to protect Gregory's legacy. Rage boiled inside her, but it was tinged with sadness. Even now, after everything, the system still protects men like Gregory. She thought about all she'd lost, her job, her reputation, her sense of security. Yet here she was, still standing while those who wielded power scrambled to save themselves. Victory tasted bitter, but it was hers nonetheless. Later that evening, Jasmine received a text message from an unknown number. It read simply, "You're welcome. GL." Her heart sank as realization hit. Gregory had manipulated every piece of this ordeal. The humiliation, the lies, the betrayal, all to shield himself. He hadn't seen her resilience coming, and though justice felt incomplete, knowing she'd exposed his cowardice gave her a flicker of peace. Victory wasn't sweet, it never was, but Jasmine knew one thing for certain: she wouldn't let the system break her again. Jasmine stood on stage at a packed community center, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions. Swirling inside her, "I was told I didn't belong because of my hair, my skin, my voice," she said, scanning the sea of faces before her. "But today, I'm here to tell you that your truth matters more than their lies." The crowd erupted into applause, many rising to their feet. Jasmine had become a beacon of hope for thousands who had faced similar battles against workplace racism. Her story wasn't just hers anymore. It belonged to anyone who had ever been silenced. After months of rebuilding her life, Jasmine partnered with Eli to launch Equity Rising, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting victims of discrimination. Together, they created resources for legal aid, counseling, and advocacy training. Every meeting, every workshop, every success felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. Her name became synonymous with resilience. Social media buzzed with hashtags like Justice for Jasmine and thus corporate accountability. People shared their own stories, some painful, some triumphant, all inspired by her courage. Corporations began scrambling to address long-ignored issues within their ranks, fearful of becoming the next Sterling Media Group scandal. One evening, as Jasmine scrolled through messages from supporters, her phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. The text read, "You're welcome, GL." Her blood ran cold. Gregory Lang. She stared at the screen, piecing together the fragments of his manipulation. He hadn't just used Claire, he'd used her. The scandal had served as a smokescreen for his real agenda, to sell Sterling Media Group without scrutiny. To him, she had been expendable, a distraction easily discarded once his plan succeeded. Jasmine sank onto the edge of her bed, gripping the phone tightly. For weeks, she had celebrated her victory over Claire and Gregory, believing justice had been served. But now, clarity washed over her in waves. Gregory wasn't a villain, he was a coward, a man so desperate to protect his reputation that he destroyed lives without remorse. And yet, it was his cowardice that had fueled her resilience. If not for his cruelty, she might never have found the strength to fight back. She wouldn't let his actions define her any longer. Instead, she would use them as fuel to keep pushing forward, for herself, for others. Change. Days later, Jasmine sat across from a journalist writing a feature on her journey. The reporter leaned forward, pen poised. "What's next?" "For you," she asked. Jasmine smiled faintly, tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "I've learned that justice isn't always sweet," she said. "It doesn't erase the scars or undo what's been done. But it gives us a chance to rebuild, and to make sure no one else has to go through this alone." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Sometimes the people who hurt us the most aren't villains. They're cowards trying to save themselves. And sometimes, our greatest victories come from realizing we're stronger than their fear." As the interview wrapped up, Jasmine stepped outside into the crisp autumn air. Leaves crunched beneath her boots as she walked toward the park where Equity Rising hosted its weekly outreach events. Volunteers greeted her warmly, handing out flyers and setting up tables. Children played nearby, laughing freely, unaware of the battles fought to ensure their futures would be brighter. Jasmine took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything she'd endured, and everything she still hoped to achieve. This fight wasn't over. Injustice would always find new ways to rear its head, but for the first time she felt hopeful. Her battle had sparked something bigger than herself, a movement that would continue long after she was gone. Hope bloomed. From ashes, fragile but unyielding, and Jasmine knew deep down that she had already won. This story sheds light on the battles so many face silently, hoping for a world where justice isn't a fight but a given. If Jasmine's journey moved you, imagine how powerful it could be for someone else feeling alone in their struggle. Help us spread this message of resilience and hope. Share it with others who need to hear it. Your support fuels conversations that matter. Hit like if this resonated with you, subscribe for more stories that challenge and inspire, and let's work together to create a community rooted in empathy and change.